I gave up my entire savings, $100,000, just to keep my parents from losing their home. I didn't ask for anything in return. I just wanted them to be okay. But instead of gratitude, they cut me out of their will entirely, like I never mattered. And my mother? What she did next wasn't just cruel, it changed everything. My name is Elena. I'm 36, and if I'm being honest, I've spent most of my adult life being the one people relied on but never really looked at. I've never been reckless. Never the one to chase chaos or call at 3 a.m. in tears. I've always paid my bills early, stayed late at work, skipped vacations to build a decent savings. Nothing wild, nothing dramatic, just safe. Responsible. And in my family, that made me forgettable. My younger brother, Aaron, was the opposite. If I was the stable one, he was the fire.
Loud.
Charismatic. Always in some kind of mess, always forgiven. The kind of person who could lose 10 grand in a weekend and still come home to applause. My parents never said it outright, but it was obvious. He was the sun. I was just the lamp they turned on when the power went out. Growing up, it was little things. He got the bigger bedroom, I got the basement. He crashed a car, I got yelled at for not helping him focus. He dropped out of college, they cashed in a retirement account to bail him out. I graduated early, and no one showed up to the ceremony. But I told myself it was fine, that being the dependable one had its rewards. I just didn't realize how invisible dependability can become. The call came on a rainy Thursday. I was at work, finishing up reports. Dad's voice was quiet, like he was reading from a script. Mom wouldn't come on the line. They were going to lose the house. 30 years in that place. My childhood photos were still taped inside kitchen cabinets. The same wallpaper from when I was 10.
And now? Gone. Just like that.
They didn't ask me for help. Not directly. But when I asked how much they owed to stop the foreclosure, there was this long pause, and I knew. They were hoping I'd offer before they had to beg. And I did. Without thinking. Without blinking. $100,000. Gone in a single wire transfer. That was everything. Every bonus. Every raise I'd banked instead of spent. My dream of buying a condo in the city.
Gone.
The emergency fund I'd built over 10 years? Wiped out. And I told no one. Not even my friends. Because I didn't want anyone to know how badly I wanted to be loved in return. My parents said thank you once. A short text. No phone call. No visit. Just 2 words. And then silence. I kept waiting. For warmth. For some shift. For some sign that maybe now I wasn't just the backup plan. But weeks passed. Then months. And slowly, I started to realize something was off. They weren't calling more. They were calling less. I wasn't being invited to Sunday dinners. My name barely came up in group chats. I was still the emergency contact, but somehow no longer family. And I kept telling myself it was stress. That maybe they were just overwhelmed. That the gratitude would come. But deep down, I felt it. That familiar, bitter weight in my chest. I had given everything. And once again, it still wasn't enough. At first, there was something. A little warmth. My dad left a voicemail saying, "Thanks, kid. You really helped us out." My mom texted me a heart emoji. Not even words, just an emoji. But still, I held on to it like it meant more than it did. I thought maybe this was the turning point. That maybe I wasn't just the emergency fund anymore. But the warmth faded quickly. Calls stopped coming. I'd send check-ins. Hey, how are things? And they'd leave me on read. Sunday dinners started happening without me. I'd see photos on my brother's Instagram, laughing around the kitchen table I saved. No invite. No mention. It was like I'd been written out of the family quietly. I tried to shrug it off. Told myself I was imagining things. Maybe they were just busy. Maybe Aaron had really stepped up for once. Maybe they just didn't want to bother me now that I'd done so much. But then my Aunt Linda called. She doesn't gossip. Never has. But she was upset, more than I'd ever heard her. She said, "Elena, I'm only telling you this because I think you deserve to know. Your parents updated their will." I felt my stomach drop. She went on. "They left everything to Aaron. The house, the savings, what's left of it. Even the life insurance. You're not mentioned. Not mentioned. The same house I emptied my bank account to save was now legally promised to my brother. I didn't cry. Not right away.
I just sat there, numb.
Trying to make it make sense. Trying to come up with any version of this story where I wasn't the punchline. Then I drove over there.
Calm.
Measured. I told myself it had to be a mistake. Maybe they forgot. Maybe the lawyer mixed something up. Maybe there was an explanation. But when I brought it up, my mom didn't even flinch. She looked me dead in the eye and said, "You gave us that money as a gift. Gifts don't come with conditions, Elena."
My dad sat silent.
Avoided my eyes like a child caught lying. I wanted to scream. To demand something, anything. Not even the money back, just the truth.
Why?
Why would they erase me? And that's when she added, "Aaron has a family. He needs it more. You're fine on your own." Like it was that simple. I walked out of that house in a fog. The same house I saved. The same house I thought might finally make me feel like I belonged. I should have left it at that. Should have let it go. But then I got a call that made everything worse. So much worse. Because what my mother did next wasn't just betrayal. It was calculated, cruel, and utterly unforgivable. After the will, things spiraled. Aaron, my brother, used to at least pretend to be friendly.
But now?
He barely hid his contempt. "You're always so dramatic," he snapped one day when I tried to bring up the house again. "It's not like you're homeless. Get over it." Like $100,000 was pocket change. Like my entire identity hadn't just been erased. And my parents? They didn't just ignore my hurt, they weaponized it. They started framing me as the problem, saying I was obsessed with fairness, that I couldn't let go. My mom even suggested therapy, like grief over being erased was a disorder. "You need to deal with your resentment, Elena," she said. "It's toxic. Aaron's your brother. Families shouldn't keep score." Except they already had. They kept the score. I was just asking why they erased mine. Then came the whispers. Calls from cousins, messages from old family friends. "Are you okay?" they'd ask. "Your mom said you've been having a tough time." Having a tough time. That was her code for mentally unstable. Turns out, she'd been telling people I was ungrateful, that I gave them money voluntarily, and now I was lashing out because I regretted it. She even said I'd been emotionally fragile for years, like this wasn't betrayal, but a breakdown. The worst part? People believed her. Because she was charming.
Polished.
The kind of woman who baked for church and posted Bible verses online.
And
I was the silent daughter. The invisible one. Easy to rewrite. And then, I found out about the heirlooms. My grandmother's jewelry. The music box she brought from Italy. The porcelain clock that sat on the mantel since I was a child. All of them were supposed to go to me. She told me so before she died. They were part of me. A connection to someone who saw me.
Gone. Sold.
I found listings online under a local antique dealer's name. I confronted them. He said a nice older woman sold the whole lot a few weeks back. Even gave me the invoice. My mother's signature was right there. No explanation. No apology. Just a shrug. "You weren't using them," she said. "They were just collecting dust." I thought Aaron's wife could use the money for the nursery. A nursery. My inheritance turned into a crib for my brother's baby. And in that moment, I felt it. This slow, crushing realization. It was like losing them a second time. But this time, they were alive. And they were choosing to erase me. I didn't know rock bottom could feel so quiet. There was no shouting. No breakdown in the middle of a grocery store. Just this constant hum in my chest, like something was cracking and I couldn't stop it. I stopped sleeping. I'd stare at the ceiling at 2 a.m., doing the math in my head, how long it would take to rebuild the savings I'd lost. How many years of my life I'd poured into that one decision. I stopped answering calls, even from the people who still cared, because I didn't have the energy to explain. How do you explain that your own family decided you were disposable? That they took your love, wrung it out, and left you empty without a second glance? Then something unexpected happened. My cousin Jenna reached out. We hadn't talked in years, not since college. But she messaged me late one night, and what she said knocked the air out of me. "I've been meaning to call you," she said. "But I didn't know how. I overheard something a few months ago, at your mom's birthday dinner. Apparently, my mom had too much wine. She was bragging to some of the older relatives. Said she always planned to leave everything to Aaron. Said I was the practical one, that I'd be fine on my own. But the part that made me freeze? She told Aunt Marge that the money you gave them was just to buy time, that she knew you wouldn't ask for it back. It wasn't just betrayal. It was premeditated, calculated. They never intended to treat me fairly. They just saw me as a way to plug a hole until Aaron could take over. I felt sick. Like I was finally seeing it clearly, but the view was so much uglier than I ever imagined. A few days later, Jenna forwarded me an email thread from a mutual friend who worked at a local law office. It was dated 2 weeks before I transferred the money. Subject line: Newell draft, full transfer to Aaron. No secondary beneficiaries. My parents had already decided. I was just the bank. That night, I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just sat there and opened a new folder on my laptop. I titled it, Truth. And, for the first time in months, I took control. I pulled my bank records, the transfer confirmation. I listed out every heirloom I'd seen for sale, screenshotted the listings. I copied every message, every email, every voicemail. I built a timeline. I wasn't planning revenge. Not yet. I just needed to see it, to stop doubting myself, to stop letting them gaslight me into believing I was crazy. I was done being erased. If they wanted to make me a ghost in their legacy, fine. But I was going to haunt every lie they built on my silence. I didn't rush the confrontation. I planned it the way they never expected me to. Quietly. Strategically. Like the responsible one they always underestimated. I made copies. Labeled folders. Brought every receipt, email, text message. Jenna agreed to come with me, not just for backup, but as a witness. We showed up at my parents' house one Saturday afternoon. Asked them to sit down. And then I laid everything out on the table, literally. Printed documents. Proof of the $100,000 transfer. The will draft dated 2 weeks before I wired the money. Screenshots of the heirloom listings. The forwarded email chain. Even the text from my mom calling Aaron the real legacy. At first, my mom played dumb. "I don't know what this is supposed to prove," she said, flipping through the papers like they were junk mail. But I could see her eyes, scanning fast, searching for exits. Then came the tears. "I can't believe you do this to us," she cried. "After everything we've been through as a family, you're tearing us apart." And my father, as always, sat there like a shadow, avoiding my eyes, letting her do the talking. But I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I didn't ask for anything back. I just said, "I'm not here for revenge. I'm here for truth. And boundaries. You used me. You lied to me. You sold what wasn't yours to sell. I'm done pretending we're a family just because we share blood. I'm not asking you to change the will. I'm just letting you know you don't get access to my life anymore. You don't get my trust, my time, or my silence." Aaron exploded first. "You're such a martyr," he shouted. "You think just because you had money to throw around, you're better than the rest of us." He called me selfish, accused me of trying to break up the family for attention. But then he slipped. In the middle of his tantrum, he yelled, "We had to borrow against the house just to keep up appearances. You think you saved us? You barely bought us 6 months." And just like that, another lie unraveled. They hadn't just rewritten the will behind my back. They had secretly borrowed against the very house I helped save again. That was the moment my mother cracked. She dropped the act. The guilt, the martyrdom. Her face hardened, and she said, "You always thought you were better than us. You were just a walking checkbook. That's all you ever were." And in that moment I felt something inside me break, then rebuild. Not because I was hurt, but because I finally believed it. I finally saw them for who they were. And I could stop trying to be the daughter they never wanted. I stood up. collected my papers, looked my mother in the eye, and said, "You can tell whatever story you want, but I've got the truth now, and I'm not hiding from it anymore." I didn't sue them. I didn't take them to court. But I did send a letter to the extended family, factual, clear, with every document attached. I let the truth speak for itself. And one by one, the phone calls started coming. I had no idea. That's disgusting. I'm so sorry, Elena. And maybe that didn't undo the betrayal. Maybe it didn't get my money back. But for the first time in my life, I wasn't invisible anymore. It didn't happen overnight. There were still nights I woke up sweating, heart pounding, like I was back at that kitchen table, watching my mother wipe fake tears while my brother ranted like a cornered animal. But slowly, things started to shift. I got a part-time consulting job at a local nonprofit. Not glamorous, not high-paying, but it gave me purpose. I moved into a small one-bedroom apartment across town. Quiet street. A balcony with peeling paint. But it was mine. Every dish in the sink, every dollar in the bank account, it all came from me, and only me. And for once, that didn't feel lonely. Cutting off contact was harder than I thought. Not because I missed them, but because I kept waiting for someone to apologize. For someone to call and say, "We were wrong. We're sorry." But they never did. My mother sent one message. Weeks after the confrontation. Just a single line. "Your father's having some health issues. If you still care." No hello. No warmth. Just another test to see if I'd fold. I didn't reply. Because love isn't a debt. And I wasn't their lifeline anymore. What surprised me was who did show up. Jenna came by with groceries some nights. We'd talk for hours, not even about the family, just life. Her garden.
My new job.
Small, quiet things that made me feel human again. A woman from the nonprofit, Leah, invited me to her monthly book club. I almost didn't go, but I did. And when I shared a little about what had happened, she didn't flinch. She just said, "Sounds like they never deserved you in the first place." And something in me cracked open again, but this time, it didn't hurt. It healed. I started writing. Not a memoir. Not a revenge story. Just little pieces of truth. Things I'd buried for too long. And each word I put down felt like reclaiming something.
My voice.
My dignity. My right to exist outside their narrative. One morning, I made coffee, stepped onto my creaky little balcony, and just breathed. No texts buzzing. No obligations. No pressure to prove anything to anyone. And I realized something. I used to think giving them everything would finally earn their love. But I had it backwards all along. I had to walk away to finally find mine. It's strange, building something out of betrayal. But I did. I took the pain, the hollowing betrayal, the emotional wreckage, the financial hit, and I turned it into a blueprint. At first, I just started documenting what had happened to me. Budgets. Emails. How to transfer large sums safely. What questions I should have asked before giving $100,000 away in blind trust. It started as a journal. Then a blog. Then a workshop. Now, it's a full nonprofit initiative. We offer free financial literacy courses for adult children supporting aging parents. We talk about boundaries, documentation, emotional guilt traps, how to love without losing yourself. We call it invisible hands. Because that's what we are until we choose to show up and be seen. And funny enough, once I stopped chasing their approval, people started paying attention. I've spoken at community centers, been invited to podcasts, helped single mothers rewrite their wills, and watched young adults cry after finally understanding they're not crazy for feeling betrayed by the people who raised them. As for my family, they unraveled all on their own. The bank eventually foreclosed on the house, not because of me, but because Aaron borrowed against it again and defaulted. Last I heard, he moved in with a friend after a messy breakup and a mountain of credit card debt, still blaming everyone but himself. My mother? She doubled down. Told relatives I stole from them. Ruined everything. Most of them don't believe her anymore. A few still do. That's okay. And then there's my father. He sent me a letter. Handwritten. 6 pages. No begging, no excuses. Just a simple acknowledgement of silence. I let her lead, he wrote. Because it was easier. Because I was afraid. But watching you walk away made me realize you were the only one who ever stood for anything in this family. I just didn't have the courage to follow you. There was no reunion. No tears or hugs. But he started donating to Invisible Hands under a fake name. I know it's him. He signs every check with a quote from our old Sunday morning newspaper comics. Just like he used to clip them out for me. Sometimes, people don't say sorry with words. Sometimes they say it with what they choose to support once you're gone. I'm not rich. I didn't get my $100,000 back. I don't have the picture-perfect family some people take for granted. But I have peace. I have purpose. And I have the unshakable knowledge that I was never wrong for wanting to be loved honestly. Because here's the thing. Sometimes the people who raise you will bury you to lift themselves. But the truth? You don't have to stay underground. You get to dig your way out. Stand up. Build something they never saw coming. A life that's yours. A legacy that speaks louder than the silence they left you with. People always ask me if I ever regret walking away, if I'd do it differently. And the truth is, part of me still wishes they had chosen love. That they'd seen me, not just what I could give. But I also know this. Staying would have meant shrinking myself to fit inside their broken vision of family. Walking away wasn't giving up, it was finally choosing myself. So now I leave you with this. Would you have forgiven them? Or walked away like I did? If you've ever been betrayed by the people you loved the most, you're not crazy. You're not broken. And you're definitely not alone. Drop your story in the comments. Someone out there might need to hear it. And maybe, just maybe, your truth will help someone else find their way out of the dark.